TGIF, Browns fans, it is Friday, October 7th, and this is your Daily Dog Take. I'm your host, Jacob at Richism13, joined again by the co-host of the Chargers Powder Hour podcast, Mr. Colin and Mr. Miles. Guys, how are you doing again today?
Doing great, man. I just had my sunny side up eggs and a big cup of coffee. I'm ready to roll.
I appreciate the assist. I think Miles is back. He's trying to.
Oh! Sorry.
We didn't activate Miles' audio. Sorry.
All right. Now we got him.
Yeah, man, it's a brand new day here. I'm ready to get going. I'm gonna go have some biscuits and gravy and get this show on the road. I'm just looking forward to Sunday though.
I appreciate keeping up the facade, gentlemen. All right, so we talked about the offense yesterday. We're going to dive right into the Chargers defense today. Guys, if you're on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. We hit 600 subscribers by the bye week. I will do the Hot Ones Hot Sauce Challenge live here on YouTube. And if you guys have been following us for any period of time, I did do the one chip challenge, which if you haven't seen, it is here on this YouTube channel. I did it in June. Yeah, June, and I was miserable. So you can only imagine exactly how I'm going to be with the Hot Ones challenge, which apparently they have created a new pepper that's even hotter than anything else. So now I got to deal with that shit. So subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, and then my misery is your entertainment. So we talked about the offense. We talked about the unicorn that is Justin Herbert. We talked about all that stuff. So let's talk about the defense, and then I want to talk about the coaching staff overall because we didn't really get to talk about some of that stuff with some technical difficulties and stuff that we had with yesterday's pod and that sort of thing. So starting the defensive line, I always like to start at the defensive line. So I know Joey Bosa's out. I'm an Ohio State guy. I know exactly all I need to know about Ohio, about both Bosas. I also, by the way, think Joey is better than Nick, and I think some people think it's the other way around.
Thank you.
He's always been better than Nick.
I agree.
So it's a tremendous blow. We know what it's like to have that blow. We just lost Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney last week, and it was awful. Now having Khalil Mack still there, that's a nice thing to still have in the cupboard. But how do you guys feel overall about the defensive line, both the tackles and the edge, especially now without Bosa?
Definitely not great. I mean, I think so. This team's had 2 weeks pretty much since 2 weeks technically since right 2 or 3 weeks, Miles. 2 weeks, okay. And so they've managed to do okay. They had 4 sacks this last week in Houston, with a couple of depth players stepping up and making some great plays to really affect the game. I think there's a lot of question marks really on this defensive line still. Austin Johnson's been banged up. We brought him in to be one of those big presences in the middle and kind of blow up the run game and address that. He's had an okay start. I think fans would really like to see him settle in and get into a rhythm. Another name that fans are kind of waiting on for something to happen is Kyle Van Noy. He's a veteran, World Series. Gosh, my mind's all baseball right now.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champ, and brought him in from New England to be that kind of outside linebacker, edge rusher, and he's had a quiet start to the season as well. So there's a few guys that could continue to step up, and I think they have enough pieces though. They're kind of like the offensive line. They're kind of in the same state. I think the defensive line is a little bit better off. Whereas, they have enough talent on that line and enough pieces, even with some injuries, to be an effective defensive line. But there's the margin for error is a lot slimmer than it was with, a healthy Joey Bosa.
Yeah, us as Chargers fans, just having Joey back there, we're kind of used to having one elite pass rusher. I mean, Melvin Ingram, when he was in his prime, was obviously kind of another guy on that line. But, now we bring in Khalil Mack, who's having a definitely resurgent season. 5 or 5.5 sacks, second in the NFL behind Alex Highsmith so far through 4 games. Really, we've just seen so many great things from him so far this year. But again, it's to a point now where if we don't have anybody step up on that other side, we're both big Chris Rump fans, who is a fourth-round pick from last year's draft. But we just really haven't seen him step up yet into that role. Again, he mentioned Van Noy. Van Noy is the guy we're also just kind of waiting for him to step up. He's been a good rotational piece, but with that both injury, we need guys like this to really step up to more of a timeshare over there on that opposing defensive line of Khalil Mack. So interiorly also Sebastian Joseph Days looked pretty decent this year, and then we have a guy, Colin, I don't really like to talk about. He goes by the name of Jerry Tillery. We refer to him by number 99, as he's not a fan favorite whatsoever within our franchise. But defensive line, it's just going to be about, can we get some pressure? I don't know how Jedrick Wills has looked so far this year. I know that he had a great rookie season, but I know that the Browns do boast a better offensive line than some teams. At least they did last year. I would have to look at the numbers from this year, but it's just going to be about, who's going to step up this week. It's kind of going to be like that from a week-to-week basis, and we're just going to kind of go from there.
With regards to Jedrick Wills, it's actually funny that you bring it up, because I put something out earlier. We're recording this on Wednesday night, so I put something out today, and Jed's been fantastic outside of the first game. I mean, he kind of struggled. There were some effort issues and some things that were going on that you weren't sure what was going on with him. After he kind of struggled a little bit last year with an ankle injury, I thought he had his best game as a run blocker on Sunday against Atlanta. Normally, he'd be a guy that grades real well in pass pro and then was kind of middle of the line. He actually was the Browns' highest graded run blocker on Sunday, and that's never happened. Because the rest of the offensive line is pretty good. So Jed's pretty good, but it's those quick athletic guys. When he loses in the inside. If you can do that a little spin to the inside, you can get past Jedrick Wills. That's kind of where he struggles, but he's been a little bit better. So that's plus baby steps. We're getting there. It's a little by the way we get there, right? So let's slide back to the linebacker room. The Browns linebacker room took a massive blow when Anthony Walker went down, and they still have JOK out there, but Jacob Phillips has been really, really bad. So how do you guys feel about their linebacker room? Because this Browns offensive line, that's their meat and potatoes, man, is this run game. And it's just a pretty good run game. And it falls on a lot of these linebacking cores, because Nick Chubb has something like 30 some forced missed tackles in 4 games, some asinine number. So how do you guys feel about that linebacker room, especially going up against this rushing attack?
Yeah, so this is one of the few parts. I mean, with Deshaun Watson missing, this is one of the few parts of this team that just absolutely gives me nightmares thinking about. And I'll probably wake up at some point Friday or Saturday night, in the middle of the night, and just have a cold sweat and just have this nightmare of Nick Chubb slashing up this defense, because Charger fans have seen him do it to us before, and talk about our linebacking group. It's not great, to be honest with you. It's one of the bigger question marks on this entire roster. There's a guy in Drew Tranquil and Kenneth Murray who, Charger fans, Kenneth Murray had a really rough year last year. It was his second year. He had a pretty good rookie year. He came in with Herbert. They were both first-round draft picks. Big drop-off in year 2. Injury kind of played into that. Now he's healthy again, and he's looking more like his old ways, but still has to step up and prove himself. So these linebackers and the second level of this defense are definitely vulnerable to both guys, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, who Charger fans are also familiar with from his time in Kansas City. So the run game is what terrifies me about this game. The Chargers haven't looked great on, defending the run the last couple of weeks. The numbers are kind of skewed here and there. They don't tell the whole story, but overall it hasn't been great. So yeah, I could see you guys putting up 150 plus on the ground on us. No time.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of what Colin was just saying. Yeah, Nick Chubb scares the living shit out of me, especially just from what we've seen in the past. And then it's like, okay, well, he's got the ball 5 times in a row. Now he's coming in. Oh, Kareem Hunt, awesome. Yeah, I'd love to see that. But, yeah, Kenneth Murray's definitely having kind of a season that we kind of wanted from him, more of a resurgence. Again, like Colin said, he was brutal, and all of the fan base can back this up. He was brutal his first 2 seasons, and again, he had some lingering injury issues, and he's looked a lot better this year. And then Drew Tranquil is another guy who I'm personally a pretty big fan of. Drew Tranquil, he just kind of gets the job done. He has some areas where maybe he'll over pursue to run. Like we've given him quite a few chunk plays in the run game the last 3 weeks, and it's been a lot between our linebackers and safeties just kind of over pursuing the play. So if they can just kind of, stay home and not, bite on any play actions or anything along those lines, then I think that we could be okay. But again, I've just seen what Nick Chubb can do, and it just scares me to my core. So it'll be something. It's definitely the battle of the weekend, I think, is our run defense that's supposed to be improved from last year up against that 2-headed rushing attack with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
It's what they got to lean on because we're going to move to the defensive back here. AJ Terrell did a really good job on Amari Cooper, who had 2 really good games. And statistically speaking, it didn't look like the opening game against the Panthers that Cooper played really well because of the stats, but that was more on Jacoby Brissett missing him. Because he had some shots with Amari Cooper in that first game that he couldn't take advantage of. But AJ Terrell did a really nice job on Amari. Now Cooper was open some, and Brissett missed him again. He didn't target him, but he missed that he was open. So J.C. Jackson, man, he's just one of those guys that just get. I said this the other day. New England just rolls out corners that you've never heard of them, but then they New England makes them famous and they go get paid and ball out with somebody else, and then New England just somehow reloads with dudes you've never heard of. I think there's a Jack Jones is his name up there now. He's balling out. I don't even know who the hell that is, but it's what happens in New England, And so J.C. Jackson up against Amari Cooper. Is he going to travel? Is he going to follow Amari Cooper? Is that what Staley normally has him do? Follow the number 1? Because if that's the situation, Brissett is somewhat capable in a schemed open situation. I thought he's played very well, but outside of Amari Cooper, until you get to the Browns tight end room, because David Njoku is playing really well right now, and his best game as a pro was against the Chargers last year. And there's not a lot of proven wide receiver talent outside of Amari Cooper.
Yeah, that's actually a great question. I think I speak for Colin and I both when I say that J.C. Jackson actually has not been our best DB so far this year. Asante Samuel Jr. Has really been the second-year guy that's really stepped up, and he's had quite a few games where I'm thinking against number 1 receivers, giving up maybe 2 receptions, 10 yards. Other than that Devontae Adams game week 1, which was kind of, nobody was necessarily following him. So I'm not going to blame Asante on all of those reps. But Asante's really come into his own this year. He looked good last year, and he's only improved so far this year. And, J.C. Jackson, we missed him first week, and then I believe week 3. He has yet to practice a full week of practice. So I think once we get J.C. back and, kind of get him into that practice rhythm, he'll come into his own eventually. But so far, he's been the cornerback, too, on this team to start the year.
Yeah, and look, I mean, Asante Samuel Jr. has had a just insane start to this year. He should have at least 3 picks, if not more, and just passes the eye test in every way and has just been amazing. When it comes to J.C. Jackson, I think my personal opinion is he's going to get better as the season goes on. I don't know what version of him you guys will get on Sunday. His first game back. Even further back in training camp, he had this non-invasive surgery on his ankle. something that he was born with, some defect in his ankle that he got removed. It was a comfort thing, and so he's coming back from that. He missed week 1, played the entire Chiefs game, an entire game with pretty much no practice, just a couple pregame warmups, or a pregame warmup and a couple workouts in the week. But he was very sore. No, didn't play in the Jacksonville game. So he sat out the Jacksonville game. He's dealing with soreness. And then we saw him again this last week in Houston, and didn't look like, the JC Jackson that we know. Now, he didn't have a terrible game, but, I think there's fans online that were like, he didn't have 2 interceptions, so he had a terrible game, which is
Yeah,
not, they're like, what happened to JC Jackson? Like, is he a bust? I'm like, no, dude, he hasn't practiced. Like, he's gonna be kind of slow, and he's gonna have to knock some rust off. So I think he's gonna get better as the season goes on. We'll see him improve. I don't know what that entails for Sunday. I think having him out there obviously is a plus, but I don't know, what version of him we get.
Yeah, I understand the Twitter can be a fun place, right? If a guy isn't just like an all pro, it'd be like, oh my God, why did you pay him more than $1 million? He's awful.
Right.
There is some Kevin Stefanski can't call plays guys going on again because they lost when their defense couldn't slow down the run like at all. But it was Kevin Stefanski's play calling on offense. And it's like right now, Jacoby Brissett's a top 10 quarterback. It's in terms of QBR, he's in the top 10 in Kevin Stefanski's scheme. And so like, I know exactly what you're talking about, man. It's just the crazy things. Derwin James is one of my favorite players. Like, I will be straight up honest with you. Like, if I could have a Derwin James, that would probably make my day. Like, there is one of my favorite players back there. Kind of talk about, him and the rest of the safety room, because he just has this unique ability, very similar to what the Browns want Grant Delpit to be as he's kind of growing as a guy that can kind of move all over the place and play many different hats. So kind of talk about Derwin James and the rest of the safety room.
Yeah, I mean, Derwin is I think the only way to describe him is one of one. There's no other safety like him in the league. I think it's kind of a knock on him to call him just a safety. Like, he is an athlete. He plays. Everyone knows he plays everywhere, and he has so many hats on that defense. He's the heartbeat. That's what Brandon Staley called him over the off season when we finally got his long-term deal locked up. He's the heartbeat of this defense. Everything goes through him. He's the quarterback of that defense. So just a special player. And it's funny because like I'll watch the game, with either my girlfriend or my friends or family, whoever I'm watching it with that week, and I just there's plays every week where I just turn to whoever is next to me and I'm like, he's just so much fun to watch. Like, and it's simple things. It's like, there's a 5-yard, 6-yard completion, and he just closes so quick, and the way, I mean, he's an all-pro tackler, and he just flies in, makes plays. It's a lot of fun to watch. So, if anything, I think, that could be if I were a Browns fan, I think I would fear him the most, more than anyone on that defense. I know Khalil Mack is scary, and a couple other guys, J.C. Jackson, Asante Samuel, but I mean, Derwin James would give me nightmares as an opposing fan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You need to know where he is at all times.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, no, for sure. Piggyback off of Derwin. I mean, he's a jack of all trades. He comes off the line sometimes. He can go and be split out. We've seen him been in like a hybrid linebacker, hybrid, corner. We've seen him do literally everything. I mean, we get stats every week about his snap counts and what position there is, and it's all over the place. He's just absolutely insane. He's one of those guys. And, we like to call him the tight end eliminator. When Travis Kelce plays against him, it's pretty rare that he has a great game against Derwin James. So, after what Njoku did to us last year, I remember that 75-yard touchdown, which was actually on Nasir Adderley, different safety that we have, who I'm also a pretty big fan of. But, going forward with Derwin James, if we can just pair him against dudes like Njoku and just eliminate those kind of playmakers, and then, in times where, it's an obvious running situation or, the Chubbernot's picking up, 7-8 carries a game, we could, move him around and he'll just be a rotational piece to help stop that stuff. He really does it all. He's so hard not to love. He's an absolute baller, and you gotta respect that kind of talent when it's on the field.
100%. All right, let me ask you something. Let me just ask you in general, because I've always kind of found this very interesting. You guys sit at 2-2. The Browns sit at 2-2. Maybe I know the Browns certainly have left a sour taste in some fans' mouths by some of the way they've played, and there's been some anger at Kevin Stefanski. In general, how do you guys feel about Brandon Staley? Like, is he the guy? Are you worried he's not, or anything like that? I'm not saying that there's any reason he should be on a hot seat. I just want to know, and I'm not saying he's on there. I just want to know how you guys feel kind of overall about Brandon Staley as a head coach.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, which I'm really interested to see how Miles answers here, but me personally, I think the best way I can describe my feelings towards Staley is I'm not 100% sold on him just yet, as far as being a guy that's capable of running I don't want to say a potential dynasty, but just a very competitive organization. Like, I look at coaches kind of around the league, and I'm like, okay, like who can we get that can be the next Mike Tomlin? Someone's going to be here for 10, 15, obviously the ideal jackpot would be a guy like Belichick, who just crushes it and is there forever. I love his attitude. He's aggressive, very analytical, but at times, like I will admit, he drives me crazy with leaving points on the board. Going for it, 4th and 2 on their 18. It's like, kick the damn field goal, take the fucking points, get your ass back to the sideline and come out and live to fight another day. I mean, I don't know. I like the guy. I root for him. I'm definitely not anyone, someone that's calling for his job or calling or questioning him. I do have questions for the offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi, which obviously, I mean, Brandon Staley has to have some responsibility for that. He's the one that hired him and brought him in. So, there's things that I love and don't like about him, but if I had to put my feelings towards him on a scale of 1 to 10, I would probably be a 6.5.
Yeah, that's a fair analysis, Colin. I know you're excited to hear what I was going to say, but I know we hopped on a podcast after we lost by 28 to the Jaguars, and I was pretty much like, you know what, fire everybody, move the team to Siberia, like let's get out of this season. Like, I was so mad, but I took a few days to cool off, and I realized, honestly, to be quite honest with you, I think I was more sold on Staley after last year and after this off season than I have been through the first 4 weeks. He brought in players that he's familiar with, that are familiar with his scheme, like dudes like Khalil Mack and a few others, and I was just so excited going into this year, and then all of a sudden we see one of the most aggressive coaches through his first year turn into this really conservative guy so far. There's been a few situations in which, we probably could use 6 points on the board, and we're in opponent's territory, not necessarily field goal range, but we're in that, 40, maybe 40, 45-yard range, 4th and short, and we end up just punting and pinning them deep. I was like, I don't know if it's the offseason critics that have gotten to him so far, but it just seems like he's not been nearly as aggressive so far to start this year. He's definitely taken more of a conservative approach. And, that all could end up to being, Justin Herbert's a little bit banged up. They don't want to put him in a situation where he's under duress and, he gets hurt for even longer. So there's a lot of question marks around it. I'm with Colin. I would put mine around a 6 or 7 on Staley so far. This year, I think he's done some good things for us. I think a lot of the team has bought into what he has laid out for him, but a lot of it also goes on our offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi. When we needed points, we let the Texans come back in a 27-7 affair at halftime last week, make it a 3-point game because our offense went, 3 consecutive 3-and-outs and got a total of like 8 yards. So something's got to give. I'm expecting him to improve over time still this season, but something's got to give, and it's just something to definitely keep an eye on as a Chargers fan.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of that with Stefanski and his going for it on fourth down. I am always going to be like, because I grew up just going for it on every down on Madden, so I'm just like, go for it, damn it. So like I'm always going to yell at you to go for it. So, but yeah, that's why I asked who we lost Colin there. Or no, we didn't lost Colin. We lost Miles. Sorry about that. But there's always going to be some of that, I think, parallels between the two of them. And we got him back here. He's down there. All right. So there, it's always interesting because I love seeing parallels in organizations. We saw some parallels with the Atlanta Falcons in Arthur Smith being very similar in his offensive schemes as Kevin Stefanski, and that sort of thing. Okay. All right. Do you want that one here? Yeah. All right. Okay. So there we go. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. So I like to wrap these things up with the same. So give me a prediction. If you got a score prediction, give it to me. If you just got a winner prediction, give it to me. So overall, what goes down on Sunday?
Yeah, I'll kick this one off. I think this is a very winnable game for the Chargers. When you look at it on paper, both teams are dealing with some injuries. I still think the Chargers have the edge in the talent department. So I'm expecting a Chargers victory, and I see a common theme forming in a couple of these early games in the season, and that is the Chargers are having a very tough time scoring and moving the ball in the second half, which really opens the door for teams to come back on them. It's the Chiefs came back on them. The Raiders almost did. The Texans almost did. Obviously, they got blown out by the Jags. So, they need to play a complete game. But I think the Browns, hang around and they make this a game and they make it a ball game in the fourth. So, Jacob, if they're down a lot by halftime, don't stress, because if any team can allow another team to come back in this game and make it interesting, it's the Chargers. So I do have them winning 28-24. I think the Chargers cover. I think I saw they were 2.5, 3-point favorites. So I do think they cover, but I do think the Browns keep it interesting, and hopefully Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt don't run for 10,000 yards.
Don't worry, we can't score in the fourth quarter. Miles?
Hey, just you saying that made me feel so much better. But so if either team scores in the fourth quarter, maybe they should just end this one after the third, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I personally think that the Browns will still have probably a monster game on the ground. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to be our leader Justin Herbert that gets the job done. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers get out to a pretty decent lead in the first half. Browns come back, and then again, our saving grace comes through and gets it done again. I'm going to go Chargers 31, Browns 27. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if Chubb and Hunt combine for 4 million yards on us on the ground. But that'll just be something to keep an eye on Sunday. I definitely think that's the matchup to be looking at, is how our run defense goes against those two juggernauts. So it'll be interesting.
All right, guys, before we get you off here, I really, really appreciate you guys jumping on here with me for these couple of podcasts. I've enjoyed talking to people from all over the place, I just love talking football, man, so I'm always down to do it. But before I let you guys off here, please let everybody know where they can find all your stuff.
Yeah, you guys can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Powder Hour Pod LA. Have all the latest news updates about the podcast, about the Chargers. Our podcast is centered around drinking and having a good time. So, if you like those vibes, come check us out. And that's really all I have. So bolt up.
Yeah, it's actually funny that as we're recording this right now on Wednesday night, we have a podcast on our network that is live Wednesdays at 10 called The Dog Chug.
Nice.
Right now, this week it's called The Guard Chug because temporarily it's for the Guardians. And they just chug beers, and by the end of it, they are drunk, and it is a good time. So we are fans of this show are familiar with that type of podcast, and they are very happy with that type of podcast.
Good stuff. So yeah, consider that the Chargers version of
There we go, the dog chug. Yeah,
brown
I like
chug.
it.
What was brown chug?
Dog
Is that
chug.
called? Dog chug. All right, dog chug.
Yeah. But for now,
Yeah.
it's garden chug, so it's whatever.
Right.
So we appreciate you guys. I will talk to you guys all tomorrow, Saturday. We'll be back with week 5 NFL picks. I'm not going to tell you how I did last week because it was really shitty. So, we'll see you guys again tomorrow. Give me the thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Tell me I'm an idiot. I know it. My wife tells me every day. So we'll talk to you guys again tomorrow. And as always, go Browns.